Lesson 5, Part 1. Stress affects us all. Stress can be caused by hearing or reading about politics or economics, job worries, relationships, ups and downs, and other major concerns. It can also be caused by little things such as a phone call that hangs up just as you answer, or getting stuck in a traffic jam. Although stress affects people more in cities, even living in rural or country areas can be stressful. Trying to decide what to make for dinner, trying to deal with increasing prices and decreasing returns, trying to get parts for a vehicle and having to wait weeks for the delivery, or just some minor example of what can cause stress. The relaxation ritual is perhaps the best way to getting rid of stress, but to do a good job may take more time than you have available. Thus, to remedy this problem, I am presenting here what I call the instant relaxation ritual. It is not meant to replace the relaxation ritual, but can take its place occasionally when you are short of time. It is also a good way to get rid of stress in your everyday life. The instant relaxation ritual. This can be done standing, sitting, or lying down. Step 1. Start by tensing all of the muscles in your feet and ankles. Step 2. Without relaxing the tension in your feet, tense the muscles of your calves. Step 3. In a similar manner, tense the muscles of your thighs, hips, stomach, chest, back, arms, hands, neck, and head. In other words, tense every muscle in your body, starting at the feet and ending with the head. Hold your body in this total tense condition for 5 to 10 seconds only. Step 4. Suddenly relax all your muscles at the same time. Permit your body to go as limp as the position you are in will allow. Step 5. With your mind, look through your body for any tension. Be especially aware of the neck, forehead, shoulders, stomach, and lower back. If there is any tension, immediately send the golden glow of the relaxation ritual to that area and the tension will fade. Caution. This technique is psychological as well as physiological. A sudden change in muscle tension and its sudden release may, in a very few people, cause a muscle spasm commonly known as a Charlie horse. If this occurs, stop immediately and deeply massage the area until the spasm ends. Then do the regular relaxation ritual as soon as possible. If you are a person who gets a Charlie horse, do not shy away from using this technique. Once your body becomes used to the sudden change in body and muscle tension, spasms should cease, and you will have a wonderful and fast system of relaxation and stress reduction. Step 2. While becoming familiar with our system of the elements, we have covered earth and air. If after working the experience for these elements are not satisfied with your sense of unity with them, continue with the exercises for another 2 weeks. Then do them sporadically as you will. Also, please remember that I am just a teacher. If you can come up with some experiences which will help you become more familiar with the elements, feel free to incorporate them into your work. However, you should begin the exercises below immediately. The element of water has the qualities of being cool and moist. Exercise 1. Observe those things around you which have the combined qualities of coolness and moistness. Remember, all of these elemental qualities are relative. When an oven is prepared wherein something is being baked, something there is a warm or hot blast of damp air, so it would not seem to have the quality of coolness along with the moistness. However, it is much cooler and moister than the heat from a smelting furnace. Therefore, the oven has more of the element of water than does the smelting furnace. So if you can determine the relative water qualities as you experience them, make a note of all of these things and record your lists in your magical diary. Do this exercise daily for 1 week. Exercise 2. Remove your clothes and enter a pool or bath where the water is cool. If you have access to a lake or river, this would be best. Also, it would be good if you could get a swimming snorkel so that you can breathe while completely submerged beneath the surface of the water. Obviously, this will be difficult to do in a small bathtub or in a shallow pool, but if you have access to a snorkel and have a place where you can totally be submerged, you will have the quickest success. Once you are submerged as much as possible, and if you are completely submerged, breathing comfortably through the snorkel, do the relaxation ritual. Thanks to the buoyant quality of water, you will find that this is quite easy. Next, become very aware of your breath. As you do this, you will find that your breath will automatically slow down. Notice the way the air feels as it comes in through the nose or through the snorkel and the mouth, down the air pipe and into the lungs. Sense or imagine the interchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide within the lungs. Feel the CO2 latent air as it leaves your body. Once again, imagine that your entire body is nothing but an enormous breathing apparatus. Imagine that every part of your body only has the function of breathing. Know that your skin is a vital part of your system. In this pore breathing exercise, as you breathe in air, imagine that every pore of your body is breathing in elemental water. Feel it as it washes in and out of you, flushing the impurities from your entire body. Do not confuse elemental water with physical water, or you may get a drowning sensation. If this happens, stop the exercise immediately and try it again another time. Experiment with this exercise at different times of the day and, if possible, at different locations. Water is not very compressible, but it is very changeable. Try to experience it in its many varieties and variations. After a week of doing this exercise, go on to the next one. Exercise 4. Spend a period of up to 3 minutes, but no more, once a day, imagining that you are the element water. Feel the fluidity, the coolness, the refreshing moistness of the elemental waters. If you study astrology, compare what you learn about the element of water with those signs that are of the water triplicity: Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Become familiar with water and all of its various appearances. Know what water feels like, what water is. Practice this exercise for 1 week. Exercise 4. Once you have learned how to be water, the next step is to learn how to consciously control this element. Take a moment and again imagine yourself to be elemental water. Bring the feeling from the last exercise into your consciousness. Next, hold your hands 9 to 10 to 12 inches apart with the palms facing each other. Now visualize to the best of your ability a bottle, cylindrical or small cast, between your hands. Next, as you exhale, visualize all of the water element which is in you going out with your breath and being disposed in the container between your hands. 4 to 7 breaths should be enough to fill it. Once it is filled, observe it for a short time. Then, with 3 breaths, inhale it back into yourself and go back to normal consciousness. Spend a week with this exercise. The test. Once again, here is a simple self-test to allow you to see whether or not you really have become not only in harmony with the element of water, but also its master. No one else will ever inspect your work, so take the test and practice of the exercises as often as you like. To become a good magician, necessities that are capable of controlling all of the elements. The next time you feel hard-headed, unwilling to change, overly tense with your muscles, hard as a rock, form the container of water as described in the previous exercise. Once the container has been filled, inhale the contents with 1 big inhalation. Bring all the contents into you. Within 5 minutes, you should be more relaxed and reasonable. The next time you are being pushed around, you are acting wishy-washy. Again, form the container of water before you. Make sure it is filled. Then visualize a large black hole in the air before you and throw the container into this hole. Immediately, visualize the whole ceiling up after you have done so. In a few minutes, you should feel less overly flexible and not as liable to allow others to take advantage of you. It may be necessary to repeat this black holing several times to have complete success. When you have passed both parts of this test to your satisfaction, you will be the master of the element water. Once again, as I have already stated, you may find one or more of the elements easy to master, while others may take time. Just keep practicing without lusting for results, and eventually the results you desire will be yours. Record all the results of your experiments and tests in your magical diary. This means the successes and the failures. The chalice. The chalice is the weapon or tool which represents elemental water. It is the easiest weapon to construct because all you have to do is buy a steamed goblet and paint it. It requires virtually no construction. Although most people prefer a silver goblet, the Golden Dawn suggested the use of a steamed glass. Other people prefer wood or pewter. The choice of material is up to you, although I must say that a glass can be a problem due to breakage. A picture of the water chalice. The shape of the goblet above the stem should resemble a crocus flower, thus it should flare out. See diagram and photo. Take a piece of twine or kite string and cut a piece equal to the circumference of the goblet at the point where it begins to flare out. Hold the measure in half and use a felt tip pin to mark the string at that point. Take the folded string and again fold it in half. Mark both parts of the string at the hold. Repeat this process one more time and mark all 4 parts of the string at the fold. The result of this will be a length of string divided into 8 equal parts and sections. The Hebrew, the sigils, the outlines are in bright orange. The background is in bright blue. The space between the curved triangle petals is left blank. Prepare the goblet for paint accordingly to the paint's instructions. Make sure the paint is appropriate for the typical or type of material of which the goblet is made. Although it will be rare to drink out of the chalice, you may do so at times. Therefore, make sure the paint you use does not have any lead in it. Take the string and place it around the goblet just below the flare. Using a soft pencil on wood, a pen will work. Make a mark on the goblet over the marks on the string. Using bright orange paint, connect the marks on the goblet to the stem with straight lines. Above these lines on the flare part of the goblet, connect the lines with a sort of curved triangle. See diagram. Fill these spaces with bright blue paint. On the following page, you will find the appropriate sigils of Hebrew words for the chalice. The Hebrew should appear in the rectangular section on the sigils, should be drawn within the curved triangle section. Use orange paint to draw the sigils and Hebrew. To protect the finish, use several coats of clear plastic such as varathane over your work. Part 3. In this section, you will learn the Rose Cross ritual. Although it is not part of the daily work, it is excellent and easy to perform. You will probably find yourself using it frequently. There are 5 main reasons for using this ritual. 1. It is an excellent banishing ritual, although its effects is quite different from the LBRP. The LBRP ritual will protect you, but it also lights up the entire astral plane with its lines and pentagrams. It is very powerful. It can also have the effect of attracting the attention of sometimes unwanted astral entities, little nasties, as we have already discussed. The Rose Cross ritual, on the other hand, works like a certain by containing your aura. It will protect you from unwanted outside influences in a different way. Do not substitute the Rose Cross ritual for the LBRP. Be sure to do the LBRP before any magical ritual. Use the Rose Cross ritual for self-enclosure as an example. If you feel troubled and cannot focus your attention, do the LBRP to banish any outside influences which may be distracting you. Follow this with the Rose Cross ritual to regain your peace of mind. Protection through invisibility. 2. The certaining effect induces a type of invincibility to the world around you. This is not to say that you become invisible in reality, nor should you infer that people who are looking closely for you will not find you, but if people are not looking for you in particular, you will tend to be ignored. Thus, you have the effect of invisibility. I do not recommend breaking the law to anybody, however, I do wish to share this experience with you. One time, I was late for an appointment and I knew that I would have to spin in my car to get to my appointment on time. I quickly did the LBRP and the Rose Cross ritual. I was driving very fast. Suddenly, a highway patrol vehicle came up from behind me and turned on the red light. They pulled over the car next to me, even though we were going at the same speed. The highway patrol ignored me as if I never existed. 3. This ritual is a good preparation for meditation. It works by calling forth a higher self. Thus, it can be helpful when doing problem-solving types of meditation. 4. You can do this ritual with the aim of aiding others who are hurting either physically or spiritually. Simply build up in your mind an image of the person you wish to help. Place that image in the center of the room where you will be doing the ritual. Do the ritual with the image of the person that you are aiding as the center of the ritual. Draw down the light upon the image of the person you are aiding. When the ritual is over, command the figure you are mentally created along with its now added peace, serenity, and well-being to return to the actual person for whom the ritual is being done. Tell the figure to go back to the real person and take with it the grace of divinity. Of course, before doing this, you should get the permission of the person and do a divination to learn if the result will be positive or negative. 5. Sometimes you may find yourself in a place where there are negative psychic vibrations. As an example, you may feel uncomfortable in a house where very negative people live or where terrible things have occurred in the past. This ritual will not so much banish the negativity in the aether as it will protect you from the invasion of your psychic body or astral self. At this point, reread the lesson which prepared you for the banishing ritual, the hexagram. Focus on understanding the analysis of the key word. It will be used again in this ritual. At this time, I will explain the tetragrammaton and the pentagrammaton. The tetragrammaton is dealt with elsewhere in this course, but due to its central importance to magic and the Kabbalah, it will avail us to go over it again. The tetragrammaton is composed of 4 Hebrew letters: Yud, He, also known as superior, Vav, and He, the inferior. These 4-letter name, tetragrammaton, means 4-letter name, is considered to be the ultimate name of divinity. No one knows the correct pronunciation of this word. Some of the letters may have been pronounced differently than they are today. The letters may have been a code for other letters. Some of the letters may have been doubled. Today, Jews do not attempt to say the word. Instead, they say Adonai, which means my Lord. There are no vowels in the original Hebrew. They were added much later in the form of points and lines written above, within, and below the letters. To ensure that no one will try to pronounce the tetragrammaton by mistake, the vowels for Adonai were placed around the holy 4 letters. If you try to pronounce the 4-letter word using those vowels, you end up with something like the following: Yahweh, Yahweh, Yehovah, or Jehovah. All of these results from an incorrect understanding of Hebrew. The secret of the tetragrammaton is the meaning of its component letters. The Yud represents archetypal masculinity, and the He, superior, represents archetypal femininity. The Vav, which looks like an elongated Yud, represents physical masculinity, while the second He, the He inferior, represents the physical femininity. Thus, the tetragrammaton signifies that the ultimate secret of the Godhead is that the divine is the union of all dualities, i.e. male and female, both physically and spiritually. The divine is everything, and everything comes from and is of the Godhead. This does not mean, however, that to know the universe is to know the divine. Merely because everything is of the Godhead does not mean that the divine cannot be more than everything which exists, or could it. Divine is more. The source of all is beyond comprehension except for the ways in which the Godhead chooses to be comprehended. The letter Shin looks like 3 small flames. This letter represents the flame of divinity, what is sometimes called Holy Spirit or Rayush Elohim. It is also known as Chi, Ki, Prana, Kundalini, Mana, Manatau, and many others. If the letter shin is placed in the center of the tetragrammaton, we get the pentagrammaton, 5-letter name. This new word, Yud He Shin Vav He, is a symbol representing the union of divinity, masculinity, and femininity in the physical, and masculinity and femininity by the way of the Holy Spirit. Biblically, any person who would be a savior or messiah to himself or herself must be able to unite divinity with the physicality and unite all the opposites by way of the Holy Spirit. Thus, any savior must be this 5-lettered name, the pentagrammaton. If pronounced the pentagrammaton in Hebrew, it would be Yehashua, which is usually translated as Joshua. However, in Greek it becomes Yashu, which in English becomes Jesus. Thus, the name Jesus is a title. Anyone can come to hold the title. The process described by the pentagrammaton is that each of us must find our own union with divinity. We cannot have a vicarious atonement. Each of us must be our own savior and our own messiah. Each of us must become Jesus. This, by the way, is strict Kabbalah. It has nothing to do with the Christian theology. In fact, Christian theology tends to disagree with this Kabbalistic understanding of the pentagrammaton. In traditional Christianity, the only reason why Jesus is named Jesus is because it fulfilled a prophecy. Another form of the pentagrammaton puts the shin between the vav and the second he. This gives the word Yehovasha. It represents the unity of masculine and feminine in the physical plane by way of the Rayush Elohim, Holy Spirit of the divine, and is presided over by the union of archetypal masculinity and femininity. This is, by the way, of one of the secrets of the tantric yoga and sex magic, but that is left for another lesson. I also want to assure you that this is not sexist in nature. If you do not like the terms male and female, masculine and female, they can be replaced with such terms as yin and yang, positive and negative, as in the sense of the terminals of a battery, not in the sense of good and bad, projective and receptive, etc. The reason I use male and female is because it has traditionally been used and also was used by the ancient Kabbalists, sometimes in even more anthropomorphic forms. It was their attempt to deal with the duality which exists everywhere in nature. I am merely following their traditional lead. Finally, I want to repeat that the symbol known as the cross for antedates the birth of Christianity and should not be considered a Christian symbol when used for magical purposes. I read somewhere that there were over 200 forms of crosses in use before Christianity began. In this ritual, it represents the 4 elements, the 4 bars of the cross, and the union of physical, the horizontal bar, and the spiritual, the vertical bar. The rose, rich in the ritual is indicated by a circle, represents the unfolding of the soul and the evolution of consciousness. The Rose Cross Ritual. Part 1. Prepare yourself by doing the relaxation ritual. Step 2. If it is appropriate, do the LBRP. Step 3. Your tool for this ritual is a little lit stick of incense. Any scent you like will do. Go to the southeast corner of your area and look away from the center of your circle. Make a large cross and circle as shown below or on screen. As you form the circle, the rose, vibrate the God name Yehashua. You should finish the syllable shu as you finish the circle. On the syllable ah, you should stab the center of the circle with the lit tip of the incense at the point where the arms of the symbol cross, and feel the energy going out and charging the symbol. Step 5. Point the incense to the center of the cross. Keeping the lit point of the incense on that level, move to southwest. Make the cross and rose and stab the center. As before, vibrate Yehashua. Repeat the process only this time move to the northwest. Step 7. Repeat moving to the northeast. Step 8. In a similar manner, move to the southeast, completing the circle. Do not reform the rose, cross, figure, or vibrate the word. Step 9. Again pointing to the center of the cross in the southeast, turn to face the direction diagonally across the room, the northwest. Now bring your incense stick high into the air and walk toward the northwest in the center of the room. Stop and make the rose cross above your head while vibrating the name as before. Point to the center of the figure, and with the incense still high in the air, move to the northwest corner. Bring the top of the incense to the intersecting arms of the cross, which you have already created in this corner. Do not reform the figure or vibrate the name here. Step 10. Now move back to the southeast, but with the incense held at arm's length, pointing down toward the ground. Stop in the middle of your area and reform a rose cross and vibrate the name below you. Still pointing at the ground, point again with the incense to the center of this cross. With the stick pointing down, move to the southeast and bring the tip of the incense to the interlacing bars of the cross, which you have already formulated at that corner. Do not redraw the rose and cross or vibrate the name in this corner. Step 11. Point to the center of the southeast cross, then walk in a clockwise direction to the southwest corner. Do not redraw the rose and cross, but as you point to the center of the cross, vibrate the name. Step 12. With the incense held above your head, move diagonally to the northeast. Stop at the middle to vibrate the word without reforming that symbol above your head. When you reach the northeast, point to the center of the figure that is already there. Then hold the incense with the lip point down and move back to the southwest, of course. Stop at the center to vibrate the name below you. Step 13. Point to the center of the cross here in the southwest. Keeping the incense on this level, go in the clockwise direction around the circle, pointing to the center of each cross. Do not remake the figure or vibrate the name. Go from the southwest to the northwest to the southeast and return to the southwest. Step 14. When you return to the southwest, rest the point of the incense for a moment at the center of the cross. Then remake the cross, only do it in a bigger size, as big as you can make it. Make the circle bigger too. As you slowly form the bottom half of the circle, vibrate Yahshua. As you form the top half of the circle, vibrate Yehovah. Step 15. Now go to the center of your area, face east, and visualize the 6 rosy crosses around you, above and below you. The crosses should be golden in color, and the lines connecting them between the corners and above and below should be brilliant white. The rose should be bright red, thus you should have a protective sphere all around you. Step 16. Now do the analysis of the keyword from the BRH. Start from the vibrating of the INRI through the let the divine light descend. Be sure to use the appropriate actions as described in this ritual. Note: if it feels right, you may omit the analysis of the keyword, step 16 above. Instead of directing this ritual toward the east, you may face the direction from which you think danger may be coming. As a group working, let one person do this entire ritual while everyone else sits on chairs inside the area where the ritual is performed. Be sure that there is room for the ritualists to make the diagonal cross area movements. Part 4. Those of you who have read this far will have learned by now that magic is work and study. After the next lesson, we will be moving on to the realm of gray magic. By studying the material, you have earned this right. You have become versed in elementary occult philosophy and the Kabbalah, as well as many other related topics. Now, because you have reached this point, I want to give you something special. As I said before, I cannot initiate you, and as I have described, although initiation is not necessary, it can speed up your progress. Even though I cannot initiate you, there is something you can do which can aid you in your development. It is a self-dedication wherein you dedicate yourself to the great work, attaining the knowledge and conversation of your holy guardian angel, also known as cosmic consciousness, enlightenment, and unity with divinity, and the bringing of spiritual light to a dark world. If you choose to do this, you must have an altar as described in an earlier lesson. It sits in the middle of your magical circle at the conjunction of the four elements which come from the four quarters. It also represents the physical universe and thus symbolizes the idea that the universe of the magical circle is far larger than the material plane. If you contemplate the altar, you will surely come up with many more things the altar can represent. On the top of the altar should be two items. There are a red triangle and a white cross. They can be made out of construction paper or felt. The cross represents our vow to follow the great work, our cross to bear. The triangle, which should be made so that it looks like 3 bars rather than one piece, with a solid middle, representing all forms of trinities. This includes Isis, Apophis, Osiris, Tao, Yin, Yang, Keter, Homak, Binah, and especially light, life, and love. As you face east from behind the altar, these two symbols should rest on the altar with the cross further east than the triangle. Be sure to read the dedication vow and make sure that you want to keep all of its preservations before actually doing this ritual. Within the circle, you should also have a small cup of water and some burning incense. They should not be on the altar, but to the sides. The incense should be the south, and the water should be to the north. Be sure that the censer is on fire-proof surface. The rite of self-dedication. Step 1. Do the relaxation ritual. Step 2. Do the LBRP. Step 3. Do the BRH. Step 4. If it suits your will, do the Rose Cross ritual. Step 5. Pick up the water cup in the left hand and dip the fingers of the right hand in the water. Sprinkle a few drops from your fingers to the left, then ahead, then to the right. Redip the right index finger and make a cross on your forehead while saying, I consecrate myself with the water. Replace the water cup. Pick up the incense and wave it to the left, center, and right. Hold it so that you can smell its fumes while saying, I purify myself with fire. Replace the incense. Hold both hands above shoulder level, palms forward, and bow your head, and say, Holy art thou, Lord of the universe. Holy art thou, whom nature hath not formed. Holy art thou, the vast and mighty one, Lord of the light and of the darkness. Step 8. Now kneel before the altar. Place your right hand on top of both the triangle and the cross. Hold your left hand up in the air. Say the following slowly, meaningfully, and with conviction. I. State your magical motto or full name. In the presence of the Lord of the universe, who works in silence and not by silence, can express, I hereby dedicate myself to the accomplishment of the great work by taking the following vow. I, of my own free will and accord, by hereby and hereon, most solemnly pledge to keep secret all of my occult knowledge from any and all whom I deem unworthy due to their evil intents or lying ways. I undertake to prosecute with zeal the study of occult sciences for the betterment of myself and the betterment of all humanity. I will not suffer myself to be placed in such a passive state that any person, power, or being may cause me to lose control of my thoughts, words, or actions. I will not use my occult powers for any evil purposes. I agree to these points generally and severely upon this sacred and sublime symbol, without evasion, equivocation, or mental reservation of any kind whatsoever. I realize that should I willfully break this, my magical oath, that I shall be known as perjuring wrath void of all moral worth, and unfit for the society of all right and true persons. Furthermore, should I break this, my magical oath, may my weapons turn against me or turn to just, and may all of my magical and ritual be for naught. So help me, the Lord of the universe, and my own higher soul. Step 9. Do the middle pillar ritual and the circulation of the body of light. When you finish, visualize yourself surrounded by brilliant white light and bask in its spiritual glow. Finish with the LBRP. As you can see, the penalties for breaking this magical oath are quite severe. You may not wish to take this oath, or you may wish to wait to take it, but if you take it now, the powers that be will take note of your vow and your dedicated work over the past few months. They will smile upon your efforts and dedication. The result will be faster progress in all of your magical and spiritual work. Part 5. A topic which deeply concerns many occultists is the magical memory. To Crowley, the magical memory was an important part of occultism, and like many aspects of occultism under another name, it has become a popular topic with the general public. Thus, it becomes hard today to discover anyone who is not familiar with some theory of reincarnation in past lives. Sooner or later, you will have a past life experience as a result of your occult work. It may be in the form of a vision during meditation, or perhaps in the midst of a group of ritual. The appearances of the hall wherein you are working, the clothes, and even the faces of the people with whom you are working will alter. You will have the impression that you are in another location and working with other people. These are all signs of returning magical memory. Before discussing the Kabbalistic theory of reincarnation, I want to make clear the importance of past life experiences. To be quite frank, I am not convinced that reincarnation is a reality. The scientific evidence for it is too scant and at times silly to take the whole thing seriously. I have met several dozen people who have told me that they were Jesus' disciples in a past life. I do not know where they were hiding in the New Testament accounts wherein only 12 are mentioned. One lady told me in all seriousness that she and I had studied Kabbalah together at Jesus' feet. I found that very interesting, as I had done some past life regressions to that time and further back, and according to my experiences, I had never even been to the Middle East. I even knew two ladies who were lovers, one of whom thought she was an incarnation of Jesus, the other of whom thought she had been Judas. This certainly tells more of a story of their present-day psyches than their past lives. In fact, their present-day relationship resulted in them almost destroying each other mentally and spiritually. I also know of several people who claim to be current incarnations of Aleister Crowley. I have a letter from one of those self-avowed incarnations which shows a total lack of knowledge of Crowley's philosophy, and even smaller knowledge of the English language. Even if you think little of Crowley, his mastery of English is beyond question. On the other hand, I have a friend who insists that all of the many people claiming to be Crowley actually may be Crowley. He says there must be at least 33 people making the claim to be Crowley, and they each have about 1/33 of Crowley's intelligence, talent, skill, and wit. Dion Fortune, in her book Sane Occultism, which should be acquired reading for all occultists, says, "To claim greatness in the past does not so much cast reflection glory on a mediocre present life as suspicion on the intervening lives. Past life experiences are one of three things. They may be real experience of actual past lives. They may be fantasies to glamorize or currently blad lifetime. They may be messages which our subconscious needs to give to your conscious, but which your conscious refuses to hear. Thus, the subconscious presents it in a way that can be accepted by conscious as a symbolic past life. The truth is that it does not matter which is the cause of a past life experience. What matters is what you get out of it now, in our current lifetime. If you reread the section on the soul, our personality, in an earlier lesson, you will see that the memory is mortal. It ends with the body at the change known as death. Thus, if we do have a past life experience, not only does it tend to be short and incomplete, but it also must be important enough to have made an impression on one of the immortal aspects of our being. And whether it is an important message from our subconscious or an ego-building fantasy, the message of past life experiences is the same. What can I get from it now? Frequently, the answer to this question deals with allowing us to learn some way of living better in the present. Sometimes they give us cathartic experiences which can free us from the phobias and neuroses which are no longer valuable to our mental well-being. Sometimes they tell us more about our inner makeup and desires. Past life experiences always have been and ever must be very personal in nature. To be of any value at all, we must personally experience them. Sooner or later, as a result of doing great work, experience them you will. Once experienced, they can make drastic positive changes in your life. They can also improve your magical talents by freeing you from problems which might be holding you back. Unfortunately, whenever there is something of true value, it seems that there is either a cold-blooded opportunist trying to make a fast buck or a self-deluded believer who must help everyone and make a few bucks in the progress. These people can be found at psychic fairs and giving classes or lectures, the main part of which consists in the telling you of your past lives. If you accept these people as entertainers, you will get your money's worth. They may actually be tapping into the information of real past lives, if such exists, but for magical purposes, they are useless. As I said, you must experience your past lives, not just hear about them, for them to be of any value to you whatsoever. Luckily, there are now teachers who are helping people to relive their past lives, and our participations in such a class is encouraged. There are also many fine books in the market which tell you how to experience past lives, and as I have already mentioned, the magical work you are doing will probably result at one time or another in a past life experience. However, your real interest here is the Kabbalistic theory of reincarnation. The Kabbalah, remember, is not a static, unchanging theory, but an evolving metaphysical philosophy. The Kabbalah has several theories of reincarnation which have evolved over time. None, however, are simplistic, as W. Westcott, a founder of the Golden Dawn, expressed when he said that according to the Kabbalah, people are limited to 3 incarnations. This has been copied by some authors who are members of the Golden Dawn, by other writers who don't give their sources credit. Before going on, I must add that in another work, Westcott does talk about a more advanced Kabbalistic theory of reincarnation. This is the Lurianic theory of metaphosis, the Kabbalistic theory of incarnating as a higher or lower life form. There are 2 prime Kabbalistic theories of reincarnation. The first relates to the 4 worlds. This theory sees 4 levels relating to the world, each of which are a series of lessons to be learned. If you do not learn them in one lifetime, you must reincarnate until you do. Once you have learned all of the lessons in the lowest levels, becoming as spiritual as possible in the lowest world, in your next incarnation, you will find yourself at the most unspiritual place of the 4 worlds. As you may have guessed, the lessons and experiences are associated with the tree of life, and thus have 10 basic areas of concern. Although there may be many more subcategories, it can be seen that according to this system, there can be innumerable incarnations. According to this system, the goal is to traverse all 4 worlds and perfect yourself so that you can reunite with the divine. However, it is claimed that most people only get to the Tiferet level of Bria. At this point, a person has evolved to such a high state that further incarnations are no longer necessary for evolvement. The second basic theory is the above-mentioned one of Isaac Luria. Luria was a famous Kabbalist who never wrote anything, but whose students' writings make him the father of modern Jewish Kabbalism. His system has 2 basic features, which would today be called metempsychosis and karma. Metempsychosis, or transmigration of souls, is the idea that we can incarnate as a lower life form if our current life is not in tune with the working of the universe. But the Lurianic theory goes much farther than the other theories of this type. In this system, you are not punished for evil by becoming a cow, rather your next incarnation is dependent upon what you need to learn. Thus, if you need to learn stealth, you must incarnate in your next life as a thief, or as that thieving bird, the magpie. As you can see, the reason for incarnating into a lower life form is very logical. The Lurianic system not only features this high level of logic, it also features great depth. If you need to learn patience, for example, you may incarnate as a rock. If you need to learn flexibility, you may come back as a reed by a river. The ideas which come out of this are fascinating. The implication is that plants, rock, animals, and are alive and have souls. This also implies that all planets and asteroids are teeming with some form of life. In fact, it means that the entire universe is wonderfully alive and that we are all but a small part of it. According to this system, we stay in a lower form until we have learned the necessary lesson. We have been of some use to a higher life form. Thus, in the example given above, you could stay a rock until you've learned patience and until you have become useful, perhaps by providing shade to a snake or an insect, or serving as a stool for a human hiker. It is possible that you stay as a stone and could last a relatively short time, or it could last for thousands of years. Likewise, you might stay a reed until you learn flexibility and become the food of an animal or perhaps part of a reed boat. As a side note, Dion Fortune urges on vegetarianism for Western occultists because giving up animal products in the diet may cause a psychic opening too quickly and bring about psychic or physical damage. Those who believe in the Lurianic theory of metempsychosis would argue that you should eat meat as it would help those who have incarnated as animals move up the evolutionary scale, although you should do what's right for you. If you force yourself to do otherwise, you will be uncomfortable and unhappy, which is the handicap for psychic development. If you don't want to eat meat, don't. If you do, do. Personally, I choose not to eat meat, fish, or fowl. However, if necessary arises, I will eat any of those items without guilt. The Lurianic system also features a notion of karma. In Hebrew, it is called tikkun. In English and other Romanic languages, words tend to have a specific meaning. In Sanskrit, this is not so. In fact, some of the earliest works in Sanskrit, the Tantras, frequently use what is called twilight language and are filled with hidden meanings that are requiring to a key to understand the twilight language code. Hebrew and other Semitic languages are similar, frequently having broad or imprecise meanings for words. Thus, although tikkun means correct, it implies the restoring of the soul to its true identity. Therefore, the reason we reincarnate in other life forms is to correct errors we have made in previous lives. The reason we experience bad in our lives for no apparent reason is for the working out of this tikkun process. There is a passage in the Bible which says that God punishes a person for his sins unto the third generation. If you do not believe in reincarnation, this implies an incredibly vicious and vindictive deity. If, on the other hand, you believe that this is a type of twilight language and really means that you may have to spend up to 3 incarnations to learn to correct past behavior, it becomes a reasonable and logistic statement. This may be the source of Westcott's 3 incarnations error. Let us assume that you have gone through many, many lifetimes and you have achieved as much spiritual perfection as possible for a person to achieve. You have been corrected. What then is the result? To answer this question, we must first answer the question of where souls come from. Simply, the divine created all the souls before their first incarnation. Thus, unrecognized, we are all imperfect parts of the divine source of all. Many have not incarnated as yet. It is possible that some may never do so. These proto-human souls are referred to as sparks. In Kabbalistic literature, these sparks are andronyms. When the soul is ready to incarnate, it is split in 2. Each half will go into a member of a different sex. Each soul half watches over the forming fetus, but does not join with it until the first breath is taken. Also, note that according to the system, you do not start as a lower life form and work your way up. Rather, you start as a human and can work yourself up or down. Once you have achieved as a spiritual a state as possible in each lifetime, the next step in the tikkun process is for you to find the other half of your soul. The other half will also have gone through a series of experiences and will be waiting to join you. It may be that one of your achieves and the state of being ready to reunify sooner than the other, and will have to wait several lifetimes for the arrival of the missing half. When the time is right, you will be united with your soulmate. This is the Kabbalistic understanding of the term. In the interim, you should love, marry, and have children. When the time is right, your soulmate will appear, and please do not swallow the "hey baby, don't you know I'm your soulmate" line. Anyone who says it isn't. Once you've met and unite with your soulmate, your divided soul will also unify during the time you spend together. This unity is especially important during sex. However, this is a topic to be discussed later in these lessons. Once your soul is back in one place as a result of the Tikkun process, you are fit to reunite with the Creator, who works in silence, and not be silence can express. Golden Dawn Neophyte Initiation Ritual. Part 6. I am often amazed at the incompetence of the people claiming to be ceremonial magicians. Many of those whom I have met seem to think that the LBRP is the highest level of ritual magic, and then wonder why pagans criticize them for their complicated rituals. In fact, some self-described magicians drop the lesser so that the LBRP becomes the banishing ritual of the pentagram. This is totally wrong and totally in error. The LBRP was given to the members of the Golden Dawn. Remember, they were a non-magical group, to prepare them for the magical work to come in the inner order of the actual organization. It is hoped that you have been practicing the LBRP for many months. Time will not wait, and it is important that you fully complete with the LBRP so that you can start practicing this, the supreme invocating ritual of the pentagram. As you probably remember, the points of the pentagram represent the 5 magical elements: spirit at the top, then going counterclockwise, air, earth, fire, and water. See diagram. In LBRP, you will note that since we start from the lower left, we are moving away from the center of the element earth. Had we moved from the top toward the lower left corner when making the first line, we would be performing the lesser invoking ritual of the pentagram. Some people advise doing the invoking in the morning and the banishing in the evening. I believe this to be a dangerous practice. The banishing must be learned and effective first. Being able to do the LBRP effectively is a prerequisite for the rest of the course. There are also 4 pentagrams associated with the element spirit. Instead of invoking, 2 are called equilibrating. Instead of the banishing, 2 are called closing. Both equilibrating and closing are dividing into active and passive, giving a total of 4 as shown in the following diagram. Spirit invoking pentagrams. Equilibrium active, equilibrium passive, closing active, and closing passive. Spirit banishing pentagrams. Along with the 4 pentagrams of spirit, there are also 8 pentagrams, 2 for each of the other elements. Each element has a banishing and invoking pentagram as shown in the following diagram. The supreme invoking ritual of the pentagram is a more powerful version of the lesser invoking ritual of the pentagram. As you can guess, it can become the supreme banishing ritual of the pentagram by using the banishing forms of the pentagrams instead of the invoking ones. However, the purpose of this ritual at this time in our work is to bring into our lives all the forces of the elements. Later, it will take on even more importance. At this time, practice this ritual only in the morning. When doing this work at this time in the course, always follow it with the LBRP. Do not perform the supreme invoking ritual of the pentagram, SIRP for short, in the evening. This is not because the SIRP is dangerous, but because it can be very invigorating and might cause you difficulty in falling asleep. This is especially true when you are in the learning process. and have not perfected the ritual. Two other things need to be noted here. First, in the center of each of the pentagrams are drawn figures associated with each element. For spirit is drawn a wheel with 8 spokes. For air is drawn the symbols of Aquarius, which is, spite of its superficial association with water, is actually an air symbol, as any book on astrology will confirm. The sign for Leo represents the element of fire. The eagle is associated with water. As the symbol of Aquarius seems to be related to water, so too does the eagle seem to be related to air. But here the eagle is an alchemical symbol for distillation, a process definitely associated with water. The sign of Taurus representing the element earth. The other thing you will need to know is that some of the words in this ritual are not from the Hebrew, but from the angelic or Enochian, pronounced Enochian, or Kelly and D, of Kelly and D. They are secret names of divinity, and we'll be discussing their system to a small degree in later lessons. The pronunciation of the Enochian words used here is as follows. The Hebrew you should already know. Remember, HYVH represents and should be pronounced Yud-He Vav-He. The supreme invoking ritual of the pentagram. Step 1. Do the relaxation ritual, the LBRP, and the BRH. These are optional and need not to be done, but they are good for balancing you and preparing you for this ritual. From behind your altar, if you have one, face east and perform the Kabbalistic cross from the LBRP. Go to the east of your area. Make the equilibrated active pentagram of spirit. As you do so, vibrate XRP. This should be done so that the last syllable P is sounded after you finish drawing the pentagram. As in the LBRP, inhale feeling energy come into you, but exhale as you make the pentagram. Be sure to save enough breath so that you can thrust your hands forward into the center of the pentagram while you vibrate the last syllable P. Step 3. B. While making the sign of spirit, a wheel in the center of an already drawn pentagram, vibrate Eheye. Again, save the breath and last syllable to thrust forward with the hands at the center of the wheel. This symbol should be made by first making a clockwise circle starting and ending at the top. Next, draw the vertical then horizontal spokes. Follow this with the 2 diagonal lines. Reread the instructions for the LBRP if you need to be reminded how to send energy out and thrust forward with the hands and left foot. The only difference is that in this ritual you do it at the end of the word of power you are vibrating. Step 4A. Still facing east and over the figures you have already made, make the invoking pentagram of the element air in the same manner as above. Vibrate Oro Ebaha Aozope while making the pentagram, saving the last syllable to thrust forward and charge. Step 4B. In the same manner, vibrate Yud-He Vav-He while performing the signs of Aquarius in the center of the already drawn pentagram. In this ritual, all the vibrating of words of power will be done in the same fashion. Step 5. Move to the south carrying a white line as you did in the LBRP. Step 6A. Make the equilibrated active pentagram of spirit while vibrating B-To-M. Step 6B. While making the inner wheel, vibrate Eheye. Step 7A. Still facing south over the figures you have already made, make the invoking pentagram of fire. Vibrate Oepe Ta'ae Padoke. As you do so, step 7B. Vibrate Elohim while making the Leo sigil in the center of the pentagram. Step 8. Move to the west carrying a white line as you did in the LBRP. Step 9a, make the equilibrated passive pentagram of spirit while vibrating Hekoma. Step 9b, vibrate Agla while making the wheel of spirit. Step 10a, still facing west and over the figures you have already made, make the invoking pentagram of water while vibrating Impahe Ad Se Ga E O. Step 10b, make the eagle head to represent water in the center of the pentagram while you vibrate El. Step 11, carry the white line to the north. Step 12a, make the equilibrated passive pentagram of the spirit while vibrating Enna Enta. Step 12b, vibrate Agla while making the wheel of spirit. Step 13a, still facing north and over the figures you have already made, make the invoking pentagram of earth while vibrating Emordial Heketal Ga. Step 13b, vibrate Adonai while making the sign of Taurus. Step 14, carry the line to the east, completing the circle, return to your original position behind the altar facing east. Step 15, do the evocation of the archangels and the Kabbalistic cross as in the LBRP. While you are learning the supreme invoking ritual of the pentagram, always end by doing the LBRP, always. And it will be better if you also do the BRH. Notes. As in the LBRP, the pentagrams are blue and the lines connecting them are white. The wheels of spirit should also be the same brilliant pure white light as the lines connecting the pentagrams. The Aquarius sign should be yellow to represent air. The Leo sign should be red for fire. The eagle symbol should be blue to represent the elemental water. Finally, the Taurus sign should be shiny black to represent earth. If you were doing this ritual in the form of a banishing ritual, you would use the same symbols within the pentagrams. However, the pentagrams would use their banishing forms while the spirit pentagrams would use their closing forms. You may notice that I do not mention a particular tool to use in this ritual. At this time, use a dagger. However, as we progress in this course, you will find that one particular weapon is not associated with this ritual as the dagger is with the LBRP. On the following page, you will find a review for this ritual. The SIRP should be learned and preferably memorized, but it is not a part of your daily work. Part 7. I want to return now to a further look at the Kabbalistic four worlds. These four worlds represent four planes or levels of existence. In English, we could say that these four planes are the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. The physical plane relates to the lowest world of Asai. The emotional plane is associated with Yetzirah. The mental level equates with the world of Bria, and the spiritual plane is related to the world known as Atzalot. You may wish to reread the section on the supreme invoking ritual of the pentagram and the four worlds from an earlier lesson at this time. There are other lessons which claim that there are far more planes of existence. Many systems hold that there are 7 planes. Others hold that there are 33 or more planes. Some believe that there is only one other plane, and the philosophy known as materialism claims that there is only the physical reality we know in our everyday existence and nothing more. Soon we will be studying gray magic, and although the practice of white magic necessitates the knowledge of all of the Kabbalistic worlds, especially the spiritual world of Atzalot, in gray magic there is really only one plane other than the physical plane, which is of interest. This is the emotional plane, the Kabbalistic world of Yetzirah. As you should recall, Yetzirah is also considered to be the so-called astral plane. As I said in the lesson discussed the four worlds Yetzirah, the astral plane is the basis for everything which exists in the physical universe. You may have passed over this quote, ignoring it, or may have wondered What was meant by the claim that the astral plane was the basis for everything in the physical universe, including, of course, all people and things in our world. This gives me a chance to argue to you to go back occasionally and review past lessons. Each time you read them, you will get more out of them. They should not merely be read and forgotten. If you had really thought about it, you might have realized that the quote from that earlier lesson may be the most important thing you will ever read. In fact, it may indicate a turning point in your life. It tells in a simple manner the basis of all great magic, but to fully understand the importance of the meaning of what we have to start by looking at reincarnation. However, this time we will approach it with a different angle. We need to look at it, the question, where did I come from? Quite obviously, the human being is more than just flesh, bone, and blood. There is also an energy which animates the body, as already stated in the Kabbalah. This energy, known as Rayush, but merely having a piece of meat which is animated by Rayush does not make a human being. The thing which really makes you different from other pieces of animated meat is your personality and what is commonly called your soul. The soul and personality are not the same. Rather, the personality relates to your ego, or that aspect of the personality known in the Kabbalah as the Rayush, not to be confused with the animating energy of the same name. The soul, in Freudian term, is the superego. In Kabbalistic terms, it is the Yechidah, the higher self. According to the Kabbalah, when you die, the body immediately starts to decay and should go into Sheol. As an interesting side note, Sheol is usually translated when it appears in the Old Testament as ground or earth. However, in some instances, when the translators wish to convey the idea that if you are a sinner, when you die you'll be punished, the same word is translated as hell. The Kabbalah does not have any such place of eternal punishment. According to both the Kabbalah and the correct translation of the Old Testament, there is no hell. The Kabbalistic tradition says that when you go through the change known as death, the personality, ego, or Rayush does not realize exactly what has occurred. This is especially true in cases of sudden or traumatic death. The personality of the dead person, suddenly freed from the physical body, tends to wander back and forth between the body and Sheol, the grave, and the previous home of the person for a period of 7 days. Traditionally, Jews stay in their home for a week after the death of a member of a household. In Hebrew, the word for the number 7 is Shiva, and this practice is commonly known as sitting Shiva. However, what most modern Jews who follow this practice do not know is the purpose of this ritual. The purpose is the name as the purpose of such books as the Egyptian and the Tibetan books of the dead, to tell the personality that it has gone probable through the change known as death, that is free to move on. It is probable that there may be a lost Hebrew text similar in nature to the Book of the Dead. If so, it was probably lost long ago, with most of the texts concerning Merkaba mysticism. According to the Kabbalah, after about 1 week, the personality begins to realize what has happened and eventually dissolves to nothingness. Remember, it is mortal. However, people with extremely strong personalities can will themselves to stay in a shadowy world of semi-existence. This may be one of the case or causes of what is commonly known as hauntings. It is not advisable to allow or aid the Rayush ego to exist for long periods after physical death. This is because there are important links between the Rayush ego and the Yechidah. By keeping the Rayush ego locked into the physical world, it prevents the Yechidah from reincarnating and eventually achieving its far more lofty goal of unity with the divine. Thus, it is that the Kabbalah usually frowns upon the spiritism and spiritualistic practices communicating with our deceased loved ones, if that's who it is really are communicating with, tends to lock the Rayush ego near the physical plane. It prevents necessary evolution. As I have stated earlier, your Yichida is your link to the divine. Actually, it is more than that. It is a small part of God. That is why it is said that we are made in the likeness of divinity. The divine is a part of us. God is not a big old man with a beard sitting on a throne which rests on a cloud, but for some reason unknowable to our mortal minds, most of the humanity has lost the consciousness of that link. In order to reestablish the fact that there is a part of us that is of the divine, we must evolve our consciousness. This, along with the working out of karma, tikkun, is purpose of reincarnation. As stated in an earlier lesson, our memories, like the Ryush ego, are mortal and die with our physical bodies. But the important thing is the lessons we need to learn so that we can, again, become not just linked with the divine, yoga, but actually rejoin the Godhead, are remembered. Unfortunately, one lifetime is usually not enough to learn all of the lessons necessary that we can become one with the Godhead and need no longer incarnate. Each lifetime in Earth is necessary to learn either one or more lessons. If you do not learn them in this lifetime, then when you reincarnate, you will still need to learn them. Sometimes we are shown the lesson we need to learn, but end up flunking the course. Then after retaking the lesson, we flunk it again. As a certified tarot master, a reader of tarot cards, I frequently work at psychic fairs, usually at least once at each fair. A young woman, frequently with a baby, will tell me a story like this. When I started living with blank, he was very good to me. We had 2 wonderful children, but after a few years, he started drinking, running around with other women, beating me and the kids. Well, I took this for 3 years, then I finally picked up the kids, moved out, got a job. About 6 months later, I met a really nice guy. He moved in with the kids and me, but recently he has started drinking, running around with other women, hitting me and the kids. What can I do to make him stop again? Of course, there are similar situations with men, only they tend to allow themselves to be manipulated until they no longer take the ego bruising rather than being physically abused. Sometimes people will tell me the same story has happened to them 4 or 5 times. For the woman above, there are many lessons to be learned. Usually, such a situation is based upon feelings or lack of worth and the need to develop self-respect and to treat yourself well. Another lesson illustrated in the above example is to learn what attracts you to these bad situations and what attracts bad people to you. There are many variations in the exact story, and each reveals more lessons which can be learned. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn advise you to seek your holy guardian angel to find out the lessons you need to learn so you will not have to learn them again in this or a future lifetime. This brings us finally to how you were born. Obviously, the meeting of the sperm and ovum produce both the physical body, and in most cases where birth is the end result, instills the zygote with Ryush energy. But where does the soul, the real and eternal you, come from? That is still a mystery to date. Since your soul has a direct link to the Godhead, it is obvious that your soul must also have a link to the total knowledge of all knowing deity. After the ego ceases to be, the soul is freed from bondage to the ego. It can freely learn through that link to the divinity and knowledge exactly what it will need to learn in its next incarnation in order to evolve to that desired state where incarnation will no longer be necessary. Then, not being bound by the physical laws of time and space, your future soul searches for a house, a body to inhabit, which will allow it to learn the necessary lessons. According to the Kabbalah, the soul joins with the chosen human body when that body takes its first breath, and not before. However, it will watch over and help protect the forming fetus. It may only take hours for the soul to find the appropriate body, but it might take years. When a woman and man are making love, they set up a vortex of energy which attracts souls waiting to incarnate. If the act of sexual intercourse is done spiritually and with love, it will attract a soul needing a nurturing family and be able to develop spiritually. If the love act is done with hatred and anger, a soul needing that type of treatment will be attached. Is it any wonder that most of the people who physically abuse their children or themselves abused as a child? Is it any wonder that most of the people in prison for serious felonies were abused children? This does not mean that a childhood of abuse necessitates a violent life. In fact, it may be that a person needs to learn to overcome violent behavior and incarnates into a situation where he or she learns it's so that it can be overcome. By the way, an interesting Kabbalistic tradition holds that sometimes several souls will actually argue over trying to get into a particular body. As mentioned before, your soul, or let us say soul consciousness, descends in superiority and becomes secondary to your emerging ego and personality. In fact, that soul consciousness descends too far that it becomes what is known as your subconsciousness. Thus, it is your subconsciousness which is your link to divinity. This is why true meditation, which reserves this order and makes the subconscious once again dominant, not the superficial layers of the subconscious as represented by the Freudian id, but the real soul consciousness, allows you to know the link between yourself and the Godhead and use that link to all wisdom and all knowledge. It allows you to obtain answers to seemingly insoluble problems. Furthermore, this deep level of subconscious, your true soul consciousness, exists on what is called the astral plane, the Kabbalistic world of Yetzirah. If you had been born with another soul, you would not be the same person. The part of you which exists in the Yetziratic world, the astral plane, was in existence before your physical body. In fact, everything which exists in the physical plane, the Kabbalistic world of Ashai, as an astral or Yetziratic counterpart. This counterpart is usually known as the astral body. Every person has an astral body or astral double, so does every animal, vegetable, or mineral. Everything has a pre-existing astral double. You do not have an astral body because you have a physical body. Rather, you have a physical body because the astral body already exists and wants to join a new home. While your soul was waiting to inhabit its physical body with the body's first breath, it was establishing a link between itself and the physical body. This link is the astral body. For anything to exist on the physical plane, it must first exist in the astral. Therefore, in order to create anything and to bring it into your life, all you have to do is create it in the astral. This is underlying principle of all gray magic. The reason why there are so many different types of gray magic is because there are many ways of creating things in the astral plane. Soon you will be learning some of them. At this point in the course, I urge you to pause and study at least briefly a book by another author. It should be about any of the subjects of this course. A true magician does not blindly follow the words of others. He or she is a scientist and investigates any of all possible avenues. A magician is not locked into any form of dogma or conditioning. This is why a magician is a dangerous person. A true magician does not buy the semi-truths and lies told by the religious and civic leaders to keep the masses in tow and in fear. A magician is always free, and freedom always frightens totalitarians. Part 8. In the next few pages, I'm going to be discussing a very important part of our magical training: physical fitness and health. Now, before you skip this section totally, let me explain that I am most definitely not talking about hours of arduous exercises with weights until you look like a stand-in for Arnold Schwarzenegger. What I will be talking about here is quite different. First, let us look at the idea of health. What exactly is health? If you ask an MD, he or she will tell you things about vital signs, blood pressure, cholesterol, and triglyceride levels, etc. And what is really being talked about is not health. Rather, these are indications of what constitutes both a lack of disease and disease prevention. You could be without disease in Western medical terms, but still not be vibrant and full of health. Levels of health. The diagram above shows that although you could be above the point where a disease manifests, you could still be below a really healthy condition. Point 1. Some people get to point 1 just above the disease line so that no disease is manifesting, but just a tiny change in conditions could result in slipping below the line and coming down with perhaps a cold or flu. Do you know somebody who seems to be coming down with a cold every few weeks or months? It is because they is because they only improve their health to level 1. If, on the other hand, your health stays way up near the health line point 2, minor changes will have little effect upon your health. It will take a major change for you to fall all the way down to below the disease line. It should be obvious, then, that we would want to achieve a state of high-level health. This is especially true for magicians who may have to spend tiring hours in a magical circle where the temperature can make sudden and radical jumps. Ask a doctor what signs of health are and you get responses which show what diseases isn't. What then are the signs of health? In the West, we really do not at this time have a good definition, although holistic health practitioners are working on establishing them. For now, to answer this question, we turn to traditional Chinese medicine. The ancient Chinese believed that there were 8 signs of health. 1. Vitality. This means having a life full of energy. It should show in the way you walk and in the condition of your eyes. There should be a spring in your step and you should have the energy to do whatever you require for you to do. 2. Appetite. This means not only having an appetite for food when you are hungry, but also an appetite for new experiences and for sex. Perhaps a better term would be lust for life. 3. Deep and sound sleep. According to the Chinese, you should only need 4 to 6 hours of sleep a night. This does not mean that a way to health is to start cutting down in the sleep you need. Rather, it indicates that as you get healthier, you will need less sleep. If you need 10 to 12 hours of sleep per night on a regular basis, however, you may want to see a doctor, as this could indicate a medical problem. Notice too that it is not just quantity of sleep which was recognized by the Chinese, but also quality. In this tradition, sound sleep indicates a dreamless sleep. This, of course, is a misnomer. Perhaps it means a sleep with undisturbing dreams. But I know that I have experienced nights where I've slept and woke feeling tired, haven't you? This is certainly not a sound sleep. 4. Good memory. This is fairly clear and indicates that you should have both a good short-term and long-term memory. In a curious reversal of Western thought, the ancient Chinese believed that as you get older, your memory should improve, not deteriorate. Old age was not seen as a cause of poor memory, disease was. Further, the Chinese believed that you should have a good memory of the past, present, and future. Present memory preferred to what we call short-term memory. Past memory is long-term memory. Future memory is the ability to remember the plans we made months and years ago for our future. It also means that we should still be trying to achieve those goals. 5. Humor. We should have a good sense of humor to be healthy. We should especially be able to laugh at ourselves and the world immediately around us. As a friend of mine said, don't take life seriously. You'll never get out alive. 6. Infinite giving. No, this does not mean that you should give away all of your possessions and money. Rather, it means that to be healthy, you should be able to give yourself to your friends and to those in need. Also, you should be able to give time and effort to yourself. 7. Clear thinking and precise action. This indicates that a sign of health is the ability to quickly see through a problem, make decisions, and act on the decision without an undue length of time. Procrastination and fear are seen as types of diseases associated with the imbalance in the body's energy system. There is also the implication that the part of being healthy is having intuitive and psychic abilities which are correctly more often than not, and our awareness and use of them. 8. Realization of oneness. This is a rate of utmost health. It is indicated by having all of your dreams instantly realized. Perhaps another way of putting it would be that the healthiest person is a natural magician. Now please don't start thinking that because you don't have all these 8 qualities in large amounts that you are sickly and going to die in 10 minutes. These 8 signs of health are goals to strive for. They represent optimum health. They may be things for you which you wish to strive, but for our purposes here, we are only concerned with the first quality, vitality. This includes physical vitality and vitality of the energies of the body. For this, I need to tell you about a strange manuscript known as the Eye of Revelation. I have heard about this mysterious manuscript for quite some time and have been looking for it for several years. The experiences or exercises in the paper known as the Five Rites have been passed along in a sort of occultist's underground for a long time. I knew the rites, but I wanted to find a copy of the original text. A short time ago, an edition of it fell into my hands. A small booklet was written by a man named Peter Kelder and had a copyright date of 1939. It tells the story of an elderly man who visits a lamasery in India and learns some magical rites, which are more like physical exercises, which rejuvenate him to such a degree that he is mistaken for his son. Quite frankly, I doubt that this story has presented as true because there are many things in it which sound as if they were made up. But this does not deny the success so many people have had toward improving their health as a result of practicing the Five Rites. It works not only as the physical body but also on a non-physical energetic system. The instructions for the Five Rites are on the following pages. As with any exercise program, you should consult an MD first and tell him or her that you wish to begin exercising. This is especially true if you have not exercised in a long time or if you are considerably out of shape. You should never strain with these perspire Only do as many as you can and advance gradually. Never force anything. One of the problems with Westerners is the curse of perfectionism. We want everything to be totally perfect. If it is not perfect, then we don't want it at all. In the case of these exercises or rites, do the best job that you can with them. If you cannot do it right even one time well, do it one time poorly, just do it. The 5 rites should be done once a day, every day, skipping no more than a day a week. If you are setting goals for yourself and can quite do all the desired repetitions of one particular exercise, do the unfinished number of repetitions later in the day. The full set of exercises should take no more than 10 minutes per day once they are learned. When doing the rites, remember to breathe. You should exhale whenever your body goes through a contracting part of the exercise and inhale at a stretching or relaxation section. Try not to pant. As a last thought, many people have become involved with the ceremonial magic, become disappointed rather quickly because they find that due to a lack of knowledge or talent, they are unable to do magic quickly, or they find that there is a great deal of study, practice, and work with which will take more time than they wish to dedicate. I think that most people have bizarre expectations as what magic really is because of the silliness seen in movies and on television. It is also due to the lies fostered by fearful religion and pseudo-occult groups. Some people expect that if you say a few words, wave your hand in the air, wear a black robe, you can do magic. As those of you reading this lesson now, nothing could further come from the truth. In getting this far in the course, you have persevered on the path of magic and occultism, when many who have come before you have faltered, failed, or given up. You should congratulate yourself. The next lesson will be the last to focus on in white magic. Starting in the 7th lesson, we will be going into the technique and practice of gray magic, which will allow you to make positive changes in your life and environment. What you have been practicing in these 5 lessons and in the next lesson are specifically arranged What you have been practicing in these 5 lessons and in the next lesson are specifically arranged to prepare you to do gray magic. If you are not competent at doing the rituals given in these lessons, you will have great difficulty succeeding with gray magic. This does not mean that thousands of people who have practiced gray magic over the centuries have been fooled because it doesn't work. Rather, it means that you need more preparation and practice. Rite number 1. This is the simplest of the rites, but do not discount its importance. Stand straight with your hands straight out to the sides. Now spin around in a clockwise direction from left to right until you become slightly dizzy. When you first try this, you may only be able to make 3 to 6 turns, but within 10 weeks you should be up to 21 cycles, which is the maximum you need to do. Rite number 2. In this exercise, you lay down, feet together on a flat surface. Your hands should be palms down with the fingers together, but slightly turned in toward the center of your body. See diagram above. Raise the legs off the floor so that you are straight up, or better yet, until they are slightly past center. At the same time, touch the chin to the chest, then slowly lower the legs and head and relax. Do this as many times as possible, but don't strain. Your goal is to get up to 21 repetitions. Don't bend the knees, but you cannot do even 1 repetition. See how many you can do with your knees bent. Rite number 3. This rite should be done immediately after doing the second rite. Simply kneel on a flat surface with your hands by your sides, palms in. Lean forward as far as you can without losing your balance. Be sure to touch your chin to your chest. Then lean backwards as far as you can, allowing your head to fall back. Repeat this as many times as you can, your goal being 21 repetitions. Rite number 4. Sit on a flat surface with your palms down at your sides so that the palms are flat on the ground. Now raise the body and bend the knees so that your torso becomes like a table to the supports of the arms and legs. Before pushing up, your chin should touch your chest. As you move up, you should slowly and be allowed to gently move back. See diagram. Return to the original position. As with the other rites, your goal is 21 times. Rite number 5. Lay your face down on the floor with the arms about 2 feet apart. Your legs should also be about 2 feet apart. Push the body, especially the hips, straight up as high as possible. Touch your chin to your chest. Now allow the body to come down to a sagging position with the head thrown back. Ideally, you should not touch the ground, but if you must, that is okay. Again, 21 repetitions is your goal, as with all the other rites, allowing yourself 10 weeks to reach this goal. Review. The following questions are designed to help you determine if you have mastered the information in Lesson 5. Please try to answer them without looking at the text. The answers are in Appendix 2. 1. What are the qualities of the element water? 2. List 5 reasons for doing the Rose Cross ritual. 3. When can you use the Rose Cross ritual to replace the LBRP? 4. Rayush Elohim, Holy Spirit, is represented by what Hebrew letter? 5. What 3 things can the past life experience be? 6. What is the Hebrew word for karma? 7. What is sitting Shiva? 8. Before anything exists on the physical plane, where must it first exist? 9. List the 8 traditional Chinese signs of health. The following questions only you can answer. 1. Are you doing all the necessary rituals? 2. Are you experimenting with the extra rituals and techniques? 3. Are you in control of elemental water? 4. Have you made your chalice? 5. Have you dedicated yourself to a magical way of life and the accomplishment of the great work by doing the ritual in this lesson? 6. What are the feelings on reincarnation? What are your feelings on reincarnation? And 7. Do you do some form of physical exercise?